So the knee did healed up nice and easy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Was it puffy?
It was puffy for the first day and a half,
Yeah.
but I only really had pain maybe 3 or 4 hours after.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's not bad.
When you got up, walk around, it's
A little
stiff,
sore.
but
Yeah.
that's to be expected.
Yeah.
Anytime you have a leg tattoo, but with the knee ditch, you can't really straighten or bend your leg.
Yeah.
So sometimes if you have to like crouch down or something, or like even when you're leaning to grab something,
Yeah.
it's like real stiff.
Yeah.
And there's significant pulling.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't bend the way you'd like it to.
Yeah.
And because you don't have that pain after the first few hours, it's like you stop even remembering that it happened. Like, and then you're just doing things normally, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's still stiff.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first day back to work, it was fine. So
Really?
yeah, well, I had the day off Wednesday, and then Thursday, and then I went back Friday at noon because I work night shift on Fridays.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always say when I get leg tattoo, or even like when I'll get my shoulders tattooed too, it's like you got like a Frankenstein walk because you're trying not to move too much.
Yeah.
So you're just all one piece.
Yeah.
Like you're just kind of ambling around like I'm walking like I'm a paper cutout or something. Like someone's
You're
moving.
stiff legging it.
But like I one of my things is since tattoos are really self-inflicted, I don't like to whine and complain about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like anyone who knows me knows that almost any time you'll see me, I'm healing something.
Yes.
So you don't really need the pretext of, okay, what's hurting this time?
Yeah.
Like I don't need to go into a big long story about what I did to myself this weekend or whatever. It's just assumed that something is sore now.
You've had a tattoo somewhere,
so
and it is healing currently.
Right. So when people see me maneuvering like that, it's like I still keep up and I'm still quick.
Yeah.
But like there's no question. It's just like, oh, he must have done something, right? Which I think is I wear it like a badge of honor.
Yeah, you should.
And it's always funny, like someone will come into work and they'll have like they'll have cut themselves, or they'll have like a sore somewhere, or they'll be sick or something, and it's all you hear about all day long. Like, oh my God, I'm so sore. This is hard. I can't work like this. It's just like I'm just always kind of giggling on the inside because I'm like, there's almost no day when I'm at 100%.
Yeah.
And if I am, I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, I'm missing the tattoo.
Or like, so during COVID, I couldn't get the tattoos that I wanted, so it was like, okay, well, what else will I work on? So then I took this piercing up another level, and then I'm stretching my conscious pretty aggressively, like recklessly even, and like worse than I normally would.
Yeah.
But like obviously they're fine.
Yeah.
But like I know I was rushing them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it was like I needed that like level up system or something. Like I can't get my tattoo fixed, so I'll get this instead.
Yep. That's reasonable.
Find that I get a little more compulsive with my purchases too. If I don't get that itch scratched, like all of a sudden I'm looking at weird piercing jewelry and stuff that I definitely don't need.
Yeah.
Right? Like I ordered a custom-made spike from South Shore Adornments, and I didn't understand the dimensions of it.
Oh,
I just knew I wanted a spike that would fit my septum, but I didn't know the particulars of the length and stuff. So when I got it, it was just like this weird ball.
Yeah.
Like it was like this round object that there's no way you could ever wear.
Yeah.
And it was like, this isn't what I ordered, is it? And he's, yeah, this is what you ordered.
Yeah.
But because I don't understand how you make jewelry, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I just said I wanted a 20 millimeter septum spike, but the width of it was why it was such a ball, because you have to kind of change the width when it's that size.
Oh, okay.
Jewelry making is complicated to me, and I'd like to know more because since I'm wearing a lot of this stuff, when I'm ordering it, I'm not visualizing what the dimensions are going to add up to.
Well, and until you see it in person, it's pretty hard. That's one of the things about, like, if you're ordering anything online, like, I don't know. It seems like you're kind of shooting the dark, right? Like,
yeah.
It's like you'll never really know until it arrives, and then you'll be like, oh, cool, or it doesn't fit.
Yeah, it was the most bizarre thing ever because I ordered 2 pieces from the website, and one of them was perfect. It was like a it was a pincher or a crescent, so it's just like a huge, like I did some pictures with it. Comes to like a point down here, 2 sides.
Yep.
And it's massive, and it's obviously a novelty item. Some people really thought I was gonna wear this all the time. They're like,
Yeah.
"How are you breathing right now? You can't be breathing. You're gonna die if you wear that." Like the comments were outrageous, which was made my day.
Yeah, of
right?
course.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I live for it because I'm there with a shit-eating grin, just eating it up. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm walking around like that. No, that stuff is costume. It's like freak show stuff. I love it. Right? It's I get it just for almost the joke of it.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you would ever walk around like that. But that piece was beautiful, and I'm really happy to have it in my personal collection. Like I have this giant. I used to have a treasure chest, but it was only so big and it was crammed full. So Sarah bought me a big divided jewelry case, like almost like you would see in a piercer studio,
Yep.
and it's full. Like
Wow.
it's all full of different kinds of stuff, and I've made a habit of keeping it really organized so I can just go in and grab what I need. I've got O-rings for all different sizes and different piercing ends and bars, and like you'd swear I was doing piercings at home kind of thing.
How often do you change things out?
Not often anymore, but
No.
at one point I changed things out a lot.
Pretty regularly?
Yeah, and so everything I used to wear, I still have. I never got rid of anything. So that's going back to like 2001, some of that stuff.
What was your first piercing?
My first piercing, my first facial piercing anyway, was my septum.
Yeah.
And then my eyebrow. And
Did you do both? Or eyebrow? Sorry, I was just looking now.
I've had my eyebrows pierced 17 times.
Oh.
Yeah, the first time I ever got my left eyebrow pierced, I got into a scrap with my brother, and
Yes, we do.
tore it right out.
Oh,
like it was like
jeez.
a bullseye for him, right? Like
That's
he
like one
went
of
to
the
it.
like when Rogan talks about not wearing a tie because it's like
Yeah.
that's like facial piercings, especially an eyebrow one. That's
It's
like a that's like a go-to.
Any of them really. Like if you hit me in the nose, it's gonna really hurt me.
Oof.
Like I'm
Can't
not
even
saying
imagine.
it's gonna drop me right away. I'm sure, like I know what it will feel like. So there's some bracing.
Yeah.
Because I've had things just like even when I'm screwing around with my son, we'll be like play fighting or whatever, as you do.
Yes.
You know. And
As you do.
he'll smack across my nose or something, and
Yeah.
it's like. Right, or like my ear will get tugged or something, and there's more pain there than there would be if I didn't have those.
Man, getting bopped in the nose without a piercing hurts, let alone with.
When your nose is like solid.
Yeah.
It would be one thing if I could wear silicone in my septum, but the septum gets so irritated from the dryness of the silicone creates.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That past a few hours, it can't be done anymore.
Hmm.
Like, I actually really thought I was gonna end up wearing like silicone, like I do in my ears, in my septum permanently, because I was like, I didn't see another way to do it.
Yeah.
Because even getting something in there is pretty hard at this point.
I can imagine.
Because like you're not just dealing with the size of your nose, you're dealing with the size of your nostrils, right?
Yeah.
So you got to jam this thing in somehow, and anything with a flare on it was just impossible to get in anymore. So I actually had to have a piece custom built for it.
Yeah.
It's like measured to the base of my nose, with no drag on either side, because the drag irritates. So that's part of why I retired my septum piercing where I did.
Yep.
People are always like, "Are you still stretching it?" I'm like, I haven't stretched it in close to 2 years.
Yeah.
And that last 6 months, I was wondering if I would even keep that size.
Yeah.
Because it was like a battle to be at that size. It was like, is it worth this much discomfort? Because I was having sinus problems like crazy when I couldn't find the right jewelry.
That's understandable.
And then even when I did, I had the custom built piece. Anything custom built takes a few months.
Yeah.
Especially since these guys are always working on multiple projects.
Yeah.
You can't expect them to be at your whim. So anything you're ordering online that's custom fit to you, expect to wait 3 to 5 months.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that a majority of jewelry that's nice is going to be made for you. Like if you're getting something that's quite nice and like they're usually hand built, in which case they're only going to build to order.
Yeah.
because like the sizings, the dimensions, the materials, all that stuff is unique usually.
It's been like a real learning experience for me, and um, especially since when I was younger, a lot of my piercing habits were really impulsive, as I think a lot of people's are. Like, you go in and grab a piercing, walk in, right?
Yeah.
Everything piercings is fast. It's over quick. You can often just walk in and get one,
Yep.
right? If you don't like it, you can take it out, and it doesn't do too much damage. Like, it's a very fast and easy
Yep.
procedure. But when you get into heavier versions of it, there's a lot of patience involved.
Well, even just once you get into the concept of stretching.
Yeah.
Stretching is like the nature of like patience
Yeah.
in an art, because like you cannot, if you go too fast, you're gonna go you're gonna have a huge problem. So
yeah, there's
like
all kinds of problems.
if you're gonna commit to stretching, like that's immediately you get to play the patience game, because
Yeah.
it's years of this, right?
Well, and there's all kinds of things you can't plan for well with stretching. Like, I'll give you an example. That is, both of these cartilage piercings were pierced in the exact same spot, but for whatever reason, and I took the same amount of time in between stretches. This one stretched more inward, and this one stretched more outward. So this one cannot be stretched anymore, and it's 2 sizes smaller right now.
Yep.
The right cartilage, and I won't stretch it anymore because at this point I consider it irresponsible.
Yep.
Because the tissue is thinned to a point where if I go much farther, I'll risk tearing, which is what happened here. There was migration there.
Yeah.
It didn't happen like overnight either. It was like I had that piercing there for several years stretched, but it just gradually thinned because the tissue was too thin. It was too close to the edge, and then the body starts kind of pushing it out.
Right.
So that's where I'm at with this, where it's still thick enough that I don't feel the jewelry when I touch it. But if I go any farther, it's probably going to pop right through.
Oh.
So that's done.
Yeah.
Right. But this one is odd. There's so much tissue here that I could probably go another 2-3 sizes. Who knows how? Like, I might not have any cartilage left by the time this thing's done. And again, they were pierced in the exact same spot.
Yeah.
It's just when you're stretching something, whether you're using taper or you're dead stretching or whatever. I don't really love tapering. I'd rather just wait until it's comfortable and then put the next size in. I've always been a dead stretch person. People always ask me how I stretch things. That I just wait till the piercing's relaxed enough that it's ready for the next size, and that does happen eventually. People are always like, I waited such and such amount of time. I'm like, okay, wait longer.
Yeah.
Like, if it's not going to work, then wait longer.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's going to be a little pain in some places. Like lobes, there should almost never be pain when you're stretching your lobes.
Really?
They're really forgiving. Like, they're really, like, they're stretchy. Like, even now, I can just yank on these things, and it doesn't, but like, you can't yank on cartilage.
No.
So it's
No,
often,
you cannot.
Often people believe it's impossible to stretch it to begin with. And I have so many people are just like, where'd you get yours punched at? Like, it's not even a question, did you stretch it or did you punch it? It's just, it's assumed, oh, who punched those for you?
Yeah.
I didn't. Like, these were, I think they were pierced at 20 gauge back a million years ago by some crazy lady at a Claire's or something with a gun.
With a gun?
With a gun that, who knows if it was ever sterilized.
Oh, yeah.
All right, like, she's just cranking out 40 piercings a day with this thing.
That's a disclaimer right there. Don't get pierced with a gun.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
Especially not your cartilage.
Oh, man, yeah. People don't understand how traumatic those things are.
Oh.
And how, like, inexperienced they can be.
I was young, I don't think neither my mom nor most people knew exactly what to do with piercings in general, let alone piercing infection.
Oh, yeah,
but,
yeah.
Like, I had I'm pretty sure I had some kind of an infection in my left cartilage, and it was just mind-numbing pain and like pus and stuff. And it's like you're using like isopropyl and stuff on it. And it's just whatever you have in the house. Like, you're treating it like...
What is it? Is it a cleaner? Spray it on me.
Yeah, well, that's what it was like. It was like, well, you would use this on this thing, so why not use it on a piercing? Like, I remember when I got my lip pierced, it was like, oh, wash it with Bactine and like do like a rinse. It's like, I don't know, like things have changed so much since I started getting pierced that it's I don't know if we know the best way even still.
Well, I think humans are individuals. Like they're everybody heals wounds differently,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a little difficult because like you kind of have to go with best practice for a majority of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like anytime you're doing that, everybody has to figure out how they heal.
Well, and this is why, like, these days, whenever I'm asked about piercings, it's always like, honestly, I barely touch anything new or freshly stretched. I just almost leave it alone. Like, I'll clean it with saline.
Hmm.
If it's really gunked up or whatever, you just soak it. But generally, you just, hygiene, right? Be in decent shape and take care of yourself, and your body will kind of regulate it.
Yep.
And the more you do, generally irritates it more than anything.
Mhm.
A lot of, like, back in the day, people used to twist their piercings and stuff so they wouldn't seize up or get locked in place or whatever the hell they were saying. But that actually destroys the healing tissue on the inside of the
Of
piercing,
course.
the fistula.
Yeah.
So
It's the most sensitive part.
it's like all this time we were telling people to destroy the inside of their piercing.
Yeah, and then they wonder why it's not healing.
Yeah, and it's like, well, it took me. It's like, how long should this take to heal? Oh, it takes about 2 years. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't take about 2 years. It takes about 2 years for your body to deal with what you're doing to it.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yep.
but it shouldn't take that long.
Hopefully not.
But yeah, no. To get back to that piece that I got from South Shore, like, it was no fault of his, or I don't think really mine either.
Yeah.
I just don't think that anyone knew, like, anyone who would be ordering that would know what the hell they were ordering.
Yeah, I
Because, like,
guess.
I got my order in the mail, and, I'm always so excited when I get a package, because at any given time, I've always got some kind of a package coming from a jewelry company, clothing company, whatever. And it's always like, yeah. So I whip it open, and I'm, like, really excited, and I seen the tusk, and I'm like, this is awesome. I can't wait to see my spike. And then I just see this hard black object.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not quite circle. It's like a weird oval circle thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, looking at it like, what is this? What am I holding?
Yeah.
What is
This
this?
is some sort of ancient artifact.
And then I'm like, I go and I grab the bag out of the garbage, and I'm like trying to dig into it to see if I missed something, and like, this is just some spare part or something, or like I've never seen anything like this before. So I'm like, no, this is what I've got. And I checked the invoice, and it had 2 things listed. And I'm like, this isn't a spike. Like,
So what was its intended use?
So, what I wanted, and I've had one made since,
Yeah.
was I had a curved spike that I put in for a video on Instagram a while ago. It had 2 skulls on either side, and it was like really long, like it was like this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I wanted a straight version of that, but without the skulls, just a straight black spike that would, sit in my nose, and my nose would be up like this, and it would just be like another theater piece, right? But I didn't notice the length of the piece, and so in order to make it like this wide, which is what it was, you can't get a spike shape. You just
really?
Yeah, you can't make something that's that broad around, 20 millimeters around, that will be in that shape at, I think it was 6 inches.
Yeah.
So in order to get that, you almost have to go to, I think the one I had made was 1.5 inches. So it's out like that long. And then it's still not quite a spike even then. It has some sharper edges, but they're still dull.
Yeah.
So they don't come to a complete point. But anyway, I got that recently. I have the proper spike finally now, but it was interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I was even like, what am I going to do with this thing other than just keep it as a gag, right? Like, it's like a memory now of, or like a funny story, right? Like, here's this. It's like, what is this? How do you wear this? I don't know.
Could
tell
you
me.
put it into your nose if you needed to?
God, no. There's
No?
no way I could ever put, because it's bigger than, like, the nostril is.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, it's, like, I gotta show you it. It's just this lump.
Yeah.
Like, it's truly terrifying, like, to imagine that I ordered this. Like, 'cause you would never pick it out of a listing. Like, like, you're scrolling through a page. Ooh, I have to have this.
Did he think it was weird?
So, yeah, that was the only thing I thought was strange about the whole experience is if I were, and this, I'm not throwing any shade at all, because I've done work with South Shore for years.
Yep.
He made my septum. I give him all the credit in the world because it's the most comfortable thing I've ever had in my nose, which is a crazy thing to say, but like if you get to a large septum piercing, like if you get to like even to 12 millimeters, some people start having problems.
Yep.
Where it's like, what am I going to put in this thing? Like now I've got it this size, but what do I do? And I cruised all the way to like 17-ish millimeters before I started experiencing that particular problem.
Right.
Like that's just the first of the problems. Like the problems of what I call, or what is known as denting, which is like when you lose cartilage, your cartilage starts to deteriorate.
Got it.
You start getting real pain when you stretch. I started getting there around 16 millimeters. But anyway, some people get into that much earlier. Just depends on your nose.
Yep.
Getting something comfortable made was amazing. Like it was like a quality of life increase without having to sacrifice my piercing. Because like you get that size and you don't want to go back, right? You don't want to go, I went through the trouble of going here and now I can't sustain it.
Yeah.
Which there's a battle sometimes when you're stretching piercings. Like this piercing here took weeks to relax. I kept thinking, I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to go back. And that happens almost any time I stretch it now because it's reached like critical mass almost, where it's like the body does not want to go much more with it.
So what's the feeling that's associated with it? Like you say, like, oh, you might have to back down. So when you're in that, is it the pressure?
It's pressure and it's not pain at all because people think it's pain. It's only pain because of swelling. Like it's not pain of the piercing being stretched anymore. It's like even when you have jewelry with sufficient space to wear it, like because I'll always, when I stretch something, I'll give a lot of tail. Like I'll have a lot of room for breathing.
Yeah.
But the swelling is just immense sometimes. Like your whole ear will like turn sideways like this. And then like people will see you and they're like, oh my God, is that infected?
Yeah.
Like it's infected. You have to take that thing, which is funny because you should never take a piercing out if it's infected. You should let the infection heal, then take it out. Because if you take out a piercing when it's infected, you can actually trap that infection inside your body.
Oh, wow.
Especially with small piercings.
Yeah.
Like something like this isn't going to heal up. Like it's never going to be a 0 or whatever. Like it's never going to be real small again. It will shrink a little, but it won't go to like a size of like my cheek or something. Yeah, because you just stretched too much. Like, people always think, oh, cartilage will never shrink. Like once you stretch cartilage, it's forever. But your skin does kind of come back together a little bit. Like it likes to kind of burrow in. Like even this used to be more pronounced. Or I had a tear in this piercing too. And there's just a little indent now. So your skin will pull together. It will never go back 100%. But anyway, the pain comes from the swelling and the pressure. Pressure is what I associate stretching piercings with, not so much pain.
Right.
And if there's a lot of pain or blood or anything, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Like I don't see that stuff with stretching. And if you do, you've probably torn something or just you're in an area you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Like
too
that's
aggressive,
not,
too fast.
those aren't things you should see when you're stretching.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be cutting or tearing or ripping or.
Yeah. It's stretching, not ripping.
Yeah. It should be pretty natural process. Like, it's funny. The early stages of any stretch I find to be the worst, because like when you're at a 2 millimeter piercing, 2.4 millimeter is a huge change.
Yeah.
Like it's just even that amount of change. It's like you're so small that any amount different is quite a bit bigger. But once you get even to like a 00, it's the next stage is quite a bit bigger, but your hole's already fairly big. Yeah. So the body seems to be used to it or something.
Yeah, I'd be wondering if there'd be some sort of memory that the tissue's gone through this before already.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It seems to get easier as you go, which people wouldn't expect. But there are some exceptions. Like my philtrum piercing is just a bastard every time. It's the worst thing ever. Like the only reason why I've even stretched it the last few times has been because my labret has gotten bigger, and so this guy feels a little small.
You just want to balance it.
Right. So it's like a balancing act. Like I may even do it one more time. Like I actually changed the shape of it last time because I've got such a wide oval here, so I had a little oval up here to kind of balance it out. But there's so much muscle in your upper lip.
Yeah, of course.
Like there's a like when I was learning the piercing stuff here, and I was reading through the nursing textbooks, there was some really valuable information for me to just know for what I'm working with. Like I never knew how connected your upper lip was to the inside of your nose.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah, there's like this area that will cross over between the two. Like so when you stretch your septum, you kind of feel it in here.
Yeah,
And when you stretch your philtrum, you kind of feel it in here too.
that makes sense.
So when you're doing philtrum stretch, it's not uncommon to have a sore nose, which is you wouldn't know why unless you knew why, right? Like
Right.
that's why even though I didn't end up doing the piercing stuff here, like maybe one day I will. It was valuable information for me because I learned
of
I learned a lot of the science behind a lot of the things I already knew.
Yep.
Like it was almost like living through it and then finding out 10 years later why it was like that.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh, okay, that's why this felt like this.
Yeah.
Right? It's like last time we were talking about like tattooing nipples versus the pain of nipples and how it'd be nice to have the two guys like,
Yeah.
I was doing this thing, he was feeling this.
Yeah.
Right? I kind of had that interplay when I was like, oh, so I stretched this and then I felt this, right? I was getting both sides of the conversation that way.
Yeah. Well, it's even like when you're getting tattooed and you're getting tattooed in an area and you feel pain or like weird twitchings and things like that in other areas of your body. It's like when you understand
Hip
how
bones
you're
connected to the
Oh,
thigh bone.
man, yeah. Like nerves are such a weird thing.
Yeah.
Like such a strange, like, I mean, granted, it's awesome that we have them, but like when you're getting tattooed, all of a sudden you can really sense the interconnectedness of all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it threw me for a loop the first few times it happened. And, well, honestly, every time it happens, because it's like, oh, right, yeah.
It's like before I had my armpits tattooed, like I believed the hype a little bit, even though I'm kind of the guy who, like, if you tell me something's really painful, I'm more likely to do it despite you with a
Of course.
shit-eating grin.
Yep.
Right? But like that being said, when I hadn't had my armpits done before, whenever you went up close to here, like in the inner bicep, or if I was working over here in the inner chest area here,
Yep.
it was like, are you in my armpit?
Yeah.
It feels like you're in my armpit. You know what I mean? Like I did not saying that, but that's what I was thinking. Like,
Yeah, of course.
Like because it feels.
Feels like you're right up in there.
Yeah, it feels, but you're nowhere close,
Yeah.
really. Yeah, like today, I'll be working up here, and I actually haven't had my thighs tattooed, and like I don't even know how long it's been. It's been a long time, 5 years, 4 years, something like that. I haven't had any work there.
Yep.
But it's my memory of it is that it was easy, but it felt like we were working higher than we were.
Yeah.
Like it
Yep.
felt more like we were up in the like the groin area, even though we weren't even close.
Yep.
As soon as we got kind of into this, like it's like I'm almost checking like where are you right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, it's a good area that you can see because like the feeling does kind of it's not associated with the area you're in. It's
Yeah,
strange.
it's I think it's just very nervy, and like the pain almost travels. Like when you touch here, it like vibrates all the way over or something.
Yep.
Like I don't know why, or I'm sure there's a good reason. I'm sure someone could sit down and explain it to me.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing I remember about my thighs is that they're very nervy.
Yeah, I would agree.
But I don't have a ton of experience in those areas because when Lee was doing them, like he did these tattoos in like what felt like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's probably an hour. But
Yep.
like anytime he's working on a big like black and gray portrait, it's like poetry in motion, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just zoom, zoom, zoom. You
Yeah.
almost can't believe what you're watching. It's like how is it so quick?
Yeah.
It's such a huge area, it's saturated in no time at all,
Yeah.
and it's in there too. Like there's no question,
Yep.
but it seems wild. Like this big Frankenstein that I had, it looks like a 4-hour tattoo to me, 3-4 hours. But then
Well,
you
for the
realize,
size, you can go even further. It
Yeah.
can go longer.
yeah, yeah.
Like depends on who's doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I've had people that if they had done that tattoo, I would have been there all day.
Yep.
but it was literally you go in at 8:30, you got a coffee, and then you're done and out
Yeah.
by 10:15 or something.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell?
Well, I mean, there is something to like just the, I mean, you see it in how Rick's approaching your blackout. Like when you've got the skin down and you've got the ability to put ink in and
Yeah.
it stays and saturates the way that you're intending it, and you don't have to keep going back over, and like that saves you a ton of time.
Well, this is it. Like when Rick and I, because he's tattooed me dozens of times, but the blackout the first time was that the end of January or early February here this year.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, when we started this here, I was watching him, and I was like, I wasn't this. And this is like not me saying, oh, it was slow or anything. I was just kind of like, this is gonna take forever, because I was like, I'm starting with a new guy, he doesn't know my skin,
Yep.
and it's gonna take forever.
Yep.
And I had a little bit of dread in that first session because I knew once I started, I know how I am. If I start, I'm gonna finish.
Yeah, of course.
And that means however long this takes, I'm committing to it from that day.
Yeah.
Right. But the interesting thing is, this leg in comparison went probably twice the speed.
Easily, yeah.
Right. Because
Easily. You guys cover such big areas.
Right.
So and like almost traumalessly. Like like
Yeah.
I'll always take like, I mean, we'll get photos of it kind of being bloody at the end
yeah,
of
it
it,
looks
but
beat up.
it could be way worse.
It's actually not beat up.
No, it's not.
Like
It's crazy. It's
there's
like weeping
barely
a
any
little bit.
Yeah, there's barely any swelling somehow at the end of the whole
Yeah.
ordeal.
Yeah.
And it's like we did the entire back of this area and the sides, and yeah, there was like no trauma.
Yeah.
I had experienced no poor healing at all. Like
Yeah.
there was no spottiness in it where
Mhm.
there's no scabs. There's no area that healed worse than another area. It's
Yep.
just a consistent clean peel, and it was almost completely dry too.
Yep.
Like the first 2 days were completely dry. Then it was pretty sandy.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of lotion, but
Yeah.
other than that, it's been pretty well completely dry heal and effortless.
Yeah. Which is like, man, that's the ideal right there.
Yeah.
Like if you can have an effortless heal, it's not gonna happen every time, but man, that helps.
Oh yeah. Well, and it makes the next session easier too.
Yeah, 100%.
And now I'm in a point where I'm looking at both legs that are, I would say 70% finished for the both of them,
Mhm.
and I'm looking at we might need one touch-up run for the entire each leg at
Mhm.
the end. And that's really good for black work.
Mhm.
Like to only need one,
Yeah.
because like when I look at it, there's a spot here. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
they're really sporadic
Yep.
spots that need to be hit. So that's like another relief feeling where you're like,
Oh, I don't have
Oh,
to go over it all
it's
again.
not all gonna have to get done
Yeah.
over and over again. It's just gonna be quick spots, and
Yeah.
we'll be able to do that in a session each
Yeah.
at the end.
Well, and I mean, especially the areas that are like bare skin that he's covering that are not cover-ups.
Yeah,
Those seem to be like black.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
just so much easier when you're
yeah.
not covering some other scarred work or.
Yeah.
See, my idea was originally that if you had well put in tattoos, they would be harder to cover.
Mhm.
But what you learn when you're getting cover ups is the better tattoos get covered up easier.
Yeah. Less trauma,
Because
less scar
there's less
tissue.
trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if they're well done, it doesn't mean that they're going to be hard to cover because they're probably done by someone who knows what they're up to.
Yeah.
Right. Where a lot of my leg tattoos were done by apprentices and 2 or 3 year tattoo artists,
Yep.
which is perfectly fine. Like I feel like my pathology for that was I have mostly what I want to do planned out for my torso.
Mhm.
So I don't want to be putting small things all over my torso.
Yep.
I'll put those all over my legs.
Yeah.
Right. That was kind of my leg game. Like I'm gonna have a whole bunch of weird stickers and some big pieces, and
Yep.
none of it has to make sense. It's just almost like crazy crap on the walls,
Yep.
right? Like an old bar or something where it's like, hey, there's an alligator head
Yeah.
over there, right? Like,
I feel like legs that's how they've been for a long time, and it's only like the leg sleeve idea
Yeah.
has really come into like popularity over the last few years, I think.
I think it's like for whatever reason they're all over Instagram and Pinterest and
Yeah.
stuff, like big, like elaborate leg pieces. They
Well, and I
trend.
get it because like, man, as a canvas, it's so much nicer to work with a large leg. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, because you just have more surface area. Your legs are a lot bigger than what you think they are.
Yeah.
So it's like when you're doing a sleeve, it's cool, but to get the level of detail that a lot of people really want nowadays, the canvas needs to keep growing.
Yeah, it does. And sleeves, like arms, are just not ideal. I don't think. Like I've never thought that you could do, like if you want like a, so you can almost get what you get with a back piece with a leg,
Mm-hmm.
where you have those big broad areas.
Yep.
Like you've got the back of the calf, you've got the back of the thigh.
Mm-hmm.
Those are huge areas.
Yep.
You've got like almost like a bigger kneecap
Yeah.
or bigger elbow, right? With
Yep.
the kneecap. Like you've got big central spots
Yeah.
for feature pieces.
Oh yeah.
The arm doesn't really have that. Like you can wrap images around, but then it's
Mhm.
like you're like, oh, what's that? Oh, I see on the back of your elbow there. There's his face.
Yep.
Oh, and then his arm's over here, and
Yep.
it's like your everything becomes a snake with the arm.
Yeah.
Whereas it has, everything is wrapping around and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you've got like, depending on how you want to look at it, but you've got probably 5 to 7, depending on how small of the pieces you're putting. But obviously, the bigger the piece, the better the level of detail that can be achieved. So
Yeah.
if you're taking up big spaces, I mean, that's 1.
Yeah.
There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. So if you really wanted to get down to it, you could do 4 images, or you could just do, you can do as little as you want. But again, you're going to run into that same problem of it's going to wrap.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite stories is when I first started working with Lee. We did, well, it was probably our third tattoo because we did a big Dorian Gray face here,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. I brought a picture of a Dorian Gray tattoo that someone else had done to show Lee, just kind of an idea,
Mm-hmm.
like, but make it your own, right? He goes, "This is a really cool tattoo, but I'm gonna do a better one." And that was my first experience
Yeah.
meeting him. It was like this arrogance, but it was also comforting because
Yep.
it's like,
Oh,
we're
good.
we're
Yeah.
gonna get a cool tattoo today, and
Yeah.
it was an awesome tattoo. It was
Yeah.
like a photo dead on of Dorian Gray, and half of his face is normal, and the other half is like eroding,
Yeah.
like it's like corrupt and like burnt and charred up. And
Yeah.
that was one of my favorite tattoos that I had. Still, like, and that's another thing. People are always like, if you loved your old tattoos, why are you covering them up? Do you hate them? Or like, it's like, no, it's got nothing to do with that. It just doesn't belong anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think like people get tattoos for so many different reasons.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most common ones is that, like here, anyways, not so much overseas. Like in Europe, I feel like tattoos are more common that you'd be getting them for their art.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like a lot of the times we associate tattoos with like you have to give it reason to be there
Yeah.
rather than just having something aesthetic. So it's like, you have to give it like, okay, this is because I want these flowers because it's a birth flower of this person, and it's like you have to give yourself this like, okay, I want these images on me, but I have to have all of this
Yeah.
importance to it. So I think a lot of people that would carry that kind of meaning around tattoos, where it's like, but it has to have dates and it has to have all the like,
Catharsis.
then yeah,
Yeah.
and this emotional tie to justify getting it.
Mm-hmm.
See what you're doing as like you're covering up that idea, but that's not the entire reason why people get tattoos. You know what I mean? Like it's so diverse as to why people get tattoos.
See, I think a lot of people don't even understand why they're getting them. They might, on a subconscious level, they might. But like I just said, catharsis.
Yeah.
Like, but what happens when catharsis keeps going,
Mhm.
right? This is where I'm at, where it's like you're after that feeling,
Mhm.
not necessarily the image you get from it, right?
Right.
That's almost become like an art form for me in itself is catharsis. Like you're healing something or you're repairing some damage or something by suffering through something else. Like
Yeah.
it's like you're overcoming this because you struggled with this,
Yeah.
right? But not in that moment. It's almost like you're repaying an old debt or something.
Mhm.
But really, when I got that Dorian Gray tattoo done the first time, it was just, I hadn't seen black and gray portrait work like that around here.
I don't
Like-
think it was here really.
It wasn't, and particularly Lee's style is very even now. I don't have a lot of portrait work anymore, but the hard blacks and the
Mhm.
really white, like dead space,
Yep.
was like what sold his imagery. for me.
Contrast, man.
That contrast
Contrast.
is sharp,
Yep.
right? And so I wanted some of that on me, but
Yep.
Dorian Gray was always my favorite book. It still is.
That's dope.
I identify with the character in a lot of ways, which if you know Dorian Gray, that might be that might not be the best thing to say because he's not the best human.
No.
Right? He's deeply flawed, but
Yeah.
he. So I really wanted, if I was only going to get one portrait, I was going to get Dorian Gray first, and then it ended up me and Lee got on real well, and so we ended up doing. He actually always wanted to do classic Dracula image, licking the blade, like the old Bram Stoker one, with the really heavy black shadowing in the hair.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I like Dracula too. I own 4 copies of that book, so you got the right guy. Right. So we did that on the other calf. And those were the first 2 tattoos that Lee did for me. But then I had those done by him, and I wanted to get into like something bigger. And I had like a kind of like patchwork thing happening on my arm. It wasn't really coming together in any particular way. So I wanted Lee to kind of shape it together, figure out what to do with this sleeve. And I had this big, cool Spawn image. It was like a comic book cover of Spawn. And I was like, oh, I don't have anything in this inner bicep. Like, let's do like this big comic book looking Spawn. And, you know, he tried to put it to me gently, but you could see he was like, what? This isn't going to work. Because he's like, you can't have this giant comic book in this area. Right? It's going to look like Little Mario or something, right? Like it's gonna be like this tiny little, like almost like this crappy little tattoo that's forced into this spot. And the only place you could put that would do it justice would be on your back or something, right? Because there's so much going on in the image. And like, so what we agreed on instead, and some people will be like, when an artist does this, they'll be like, oh, he tried to talk me out of my idea and he tried to change my idea. So I went to someone and they did it the way I wanted. It's like, you should have listened because that Spawn face that we did instead ended up being one of the most beloved tattoos I had. People were heartbroken when I covered it up. Like, you got rid of your Spawn tattoo. Like, I thought that guy was going to stay. And I was even thinking at the time, like, when I was blacking everything out, there's no way this Spawn can stay here because it's such an identifiable guy. It just can't be in my suit anymore because it's one piece, right? So I got this whole body theme, and then I've just got Spawn hanging out here. Like it just didn't make sense anymore.
No, and the further in you got, the more out of place it would look.
The more it made sense too. Like it's like even as cool as he was, it was time to go, and he was one of the last things that went. But I'm happy that Lee and I came to that decision, and it wasn't him pushing me to it either, because once it was explained to me, it was like my logic on it was like, well, I wouldn't tell the plumber how to fix my toilet, like I'm not going to tell the artist how to do his job either. And if I've come to this guy and he's telling me this is the way to do this image and make it good, then I'm going to listen. He's done this a million times.
It is kind of crazy to me. I'm not totally shocked at the idea, because I think culturally we have a lot of control over many things that we probably don't need to have control over, and we like obsess over how they're going to be done. But when it comes to these types of fields, it's it's tough to say, do this exactly like I want, because like you have no if you have no experience in the field, you don't know what it will translate to. And that's one of the things that I find most difficult, is the people that put the most thought into a design and they put the most investment and emotion, they're going to be in that category of like, oh, this guy told me not to do this and I hated that, so I left. And it's like, well, they're not trying to get you to do something bad. Because the interesting thing about a tattoo is that artist's stamp is on that tattoo. Because anytime somebody sees it, they're going to say, where did you get that? And they're going to say, this guy at this place. So it's one of those things that they have an invested interest in giving you a good tattoo, because you are a walking advertisement. So if you have someone that's skilled and capable and knowledgeable, it is within their best interest to give you something that's the best product for the longest time. And yet so many people don't understand that, which I get, but it's kind of like, we do that in so many different ways. I always think about it in terms of like chefs.
Yeah.
Like how many people are instructing just how to do something that this guy, if you just let him do what he's going to do, will give you a better experience.
Well, that's the old saying of too many hands in the kitchen or
Yeah.
whatever, too many cooks in the kitchen. You muddy the work,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you just need one voice on the matter.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you come to an artist that's been working for quite a long time
Mhm.
and they have their established style. And a lot of times you only came to that person because you've seen the work they
Yeah.
were doing.
Yep.
Why are you trying to get something that they wouldn't do other than
Yeah.
that, right?
Well, that's like my leg, my right leg, anyways. Is I'm collecting different pieces from different artists. Usually guys that come through the shop that are guest artists or whatever. But they're all like I just gave one instruction, which is I want a skull piece.
Yeah,
So
different skulls.
they're all different skulls, and because I like my theory is that skulls allow like it's such a base art thing.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like a cornerstone.
yeah, and not to mention like where you take that is entirely up to your interpretation. So I just like getting different styles from different artists and going like, okay, skull piece, go for it. And I get really cool art
Yeah.
because it's like that's a broad enough topic that it enables creativity.
I also think it's a thing that lots of people want to do too. Like
Yeah.
people like doing skulls.
Yep.
Because you have so much leeway and play with them too,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You can animate them any kind of way you want.
Yep.
Like it's not such a it has to look like this
Mhm.
every time. So there's some things that it's like I'm gonna make my whole leg about bottles of water
Yeah.
and go. Like who's excited about doing that?
I mean, I would be excited about that
I
because I
mean,
love bottled water.
It's
But
it's a neat idea.
yep.
I'm sure you could make it cool, but
You
it,
probably could.
I don't know if
Now
it
that I'm thinking
appeals
about
to
it.
as many artists.
Probably none. Although, like, I guess it depends. Because, like, the bottles can be really cool shapes and things
Yeah.
like that. You could do different things with how full the water is. You could do bubbles.
Right.
You know, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe someone's really excited about bottled water leg sleeve.
It is possible. And, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I have seen some other things. Like, I seen one guy who has a whole bodysuit of just different script everywhere.
Oh, that's cool, yeah.
It's just like script,
Yeah.
script, script. And it's some of them are band names, and some of them are like old memes, and some of them are like catchphrases from the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, just random scripts.
Straight like
everywhere.
Memento style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really weird, and this guy gets hated on more than I do.
Which is weird.
Well, whenever you're doing something that's really
Unique.
unique or strange, it's like, and people haven't seen much of it.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's fair play to attack it, right? Because
It's the odd man out. It's
right.
the
So
different thing.
now, I've noticed what's happened is full bodysuits used to be like fair game to attack. Like it was like, oh, blah 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 about this, but now it's become appreciated. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, look how cool that is. Look at the art this guy got.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But then if you're a blackout tattoo, oh my god, why would you do that? That's so ugly. What a boring tattoo. Like
Yeah.
all of these things start coming out, right? And it's just we're slowly moving the bar on what's acceptable behavior.
Yeah.
Like I said about the time when I got the change thrown at me, right? Like at some point it was okay to treat people who looked like that way, I guess.
What's up, Rick?
Hey, how's it going, man? So, like that line has moved now. Like you said, they probably wouldn't do that now, right? Well, that's because we keep saying that's not okay slowly. Like, so I think eventually what happens is that guy with the script, eventually he'll be immune too in a
Yeah.
way, right? And then you'll have to go even farther than that to get
Yeah.
a rise. Like now I've seen a guy too the other day, like you've got blackout guys all over the place, like blackout tattoos. So now there's a guy who's a blue out, like
Yep.
his whole body is blue. And it's like, that's crazy, but for how long?
Yeah.
Like, what's the next level on that, I wonder? And we won't get there. The next generation will.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, I would agree.
we're busting down this wall
Yeah.
so that the next generation can bust down another wall, and
Yeah.
then this is how you get acceptance.
Progress, right?
Yeah, progress over time, right?
Yeah, pushing boundaries and which like I mean the tattoo industry is kind of at the forefront of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Tattoos and piercings, they're always going to be pushing the boundaries,
Well,
which I like.
And I've always said, like, to my wife, you put me in an area where the average guy has 5 to 10 piercings. Well, I'm going to be the guy with 30 to 40.
Yeah.
And it's not even because I need to compete, but I want to be on that edge.
Yep.
Like, and it's not always conscious either. It's not always something that I'm like, I need to upstage this guy. It's just, I seem to like to be pushing boundaries. And it's probably something psychological with me. There's probably some deep rooted reasoning for that.
Well, I think humanity is always trying to push boundaries. You know what I mean? I think
Right.
that's one of the reasons you cross the ocean when you think the world's flat. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that we have this, and sometimes
Some
it
of us
works,
are
sometimes
more,
it doesn't.
Some of us are more hungry to do it than
100%.
others. Like some of us want to be on that frontier.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, because like sometimes the frontier is the thing that's safest.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then most of the time it's the most dangerous. But like
Well,
as long as you're moving forward, right?
a big part of it for me is like, I feel like if I'm not moving forward, I'm deteriorating. Like, I don't want to feel like a week passes and I was worse for it.
Right.
Like, I want to go, I'm getting older, I'm getting better. I'm getting older, I'm falling apart.
Yeah.
Which, that's the struggle, right? Because that is what's happening. You're getting older and you're getting weaker, generally.
Yeah.
Unless you're combating that.
Right.
And I mean, that accelerates the older you get.
Yeah.
So I think there's this push in me that's like, yes, you are getting older, but you don't have to fall apart.
Right.
And if you maintain that balance of, instead of as I age I'm losing,
Yeah.
it can be as I age I'm getting farther in this thing. As I age I'm getting farther in this thing.
Well, I feel like we're like figuring out that like, and we're getting more examples of human beings that are continuing to advance as they get older.
Yeah.
The whole kind of like, it doesn't matter what age you are, you can keep trying new things and doing all that stuff. Because like, we get examples of people that are, you know, north of 50 that are physically in fantastic shape.
Yeah.
And they're able to keep pushing into new areas of life. And I
Yeah.
think for a long time, everybody kind of had this idea of like you go over the hill and then you kind of slow down to retirement and then nothing. Where it's like, okay, maybe that's a thing for some people, and then maybe it's not. You know,
Right.
maybe if you're 65 and you want to start a new career because you're still passionate and you want to learn and use your brain and figure out new things and walk new paths, like
Yeah.
that's no longer the year of it. It's kind of like, as long as you treat your body well and as long as you keep that energy and that spirit towards it, you're probably going to be able to do that.
Yeah, I've seen some things that have made me like really wonder and like kind of sad over the years, where I've known some people who used to be like whip smart, like real quick, like run circles around me in conversation and just sharp. And then they'll get married or they'll have a few kids, and it's like they've just, I don't know, for one reason or another, their life got too busy or something, but they stopped questioning, they stopped wondering, and their brain kind of slows down, and you
Yep.
talk to them that 10 years later, and it's like you're talking to almost like a reduced version of them with less ideas, and they're just less colorful all around. It's like,
Yeah.
what happened to your brain? You used to be so like spry, you know? And I think that happens. So people say over the hill, like there's some age when that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've seen this
It's a
happen
mentality,
to
I
people.
think.
I've seen it happen to people in their 30s.
Yep.
Right, where it's almost like this is my life now, and
Yeah.
they just accept that this is what they're gonna do every day, and there's nothing new.
Yep.
Like, I have a coworker who, for the longest time, I've been telling him, like, you've got a really animated voice, you've got like a really dramatic flair, you should do like audiobooks or something, right?
Yep.
Like do something like that. And it was always like, oh, I could never do that. Oh, no one want to listen. And finally, over COVID, he started doing that
Yep.
stuff, and
Yep.
he's loving it. And it's like,
Of course.
now it's like spiraling in other directions and stuff.
Yep.
And it's like, he realized all at once that, yeah, that was kind of an avenue for him.
Yeah.
But I think people do that a lot. I could never do that. Oh, I
Yeah.
could never do that. I'll just exist until I'm dead, right?
Well, I think this idea that you need some sort of special qualification to get
Yeah.
into something.
Well, who are these special people that all these gifts are given to?
Yeah, we don't have this, like, you don't get given a license to be like, okay, yeah, you can do audiobooks. It's like,
Yeah.
no, anyone can try this,
Yeah.
which is the the funny thing about so many different technological avenues that have opened up, like podcasting and things
Yeah.
like that. But like, you're not going to go to school for podcasting
No.
because nothing that you're going to learn without doing is going to help you in that. It might help you with the technical side of it. It
The technical
might
side,
help
yeah.
you know what to get and how to do it. But in terms of being interesting, having conversations, being able to carry on a conversation,
Yeah.
and have that be something you want to do,
Yeah.
like you and I, if we sit down, we're gonna talk.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
it works. Like
Yeah.
we just have conversations. So it's one of those like, this is a natural thing for us.
Right.
But there was no physical barrier to entry for us just trying it.
Right.
And we will see how well it goes and if we can sustain it and all that stuff. But like the only thing that's going to stop us is us.
Yeah.
If we decide to not do it, then it's not going to happen. If we decide
Well-
to do it, it might happen.
My son and I were well. He wanted to see the second episode the other day, and we're watching it. And he's like, "So does he know the questions you're gonna ask, or like he's like nervously watching it, like it's making him a little anxious. Like,
Yeah.
how does this work? Like, do you guys know what you're gonna say?" I was like, "No." So what happens is, he has no idea what I'm going to say, and
Yeah.
I have no idea what he's going to say. And there's even some chance that there might be a squabble at some point.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, what would happen if you got into an argument?" I go, "Well, you discuss it, right?"
Yeah, of
And you
course.
but like it's not as sterile as people might imagine. Like
No.
like I remember when we were conceiving this idea, someone floated the idea of, well, there'll be a loose script, and I'm like, there
Yeah,
can't be a
no.
loose script.
Yeah.
I have an idea when I start, and then you talk until you're done,
Yeah.
right? And my son was watching it. Like I imagine the way he's watching it is how some people would imagine it too. Like
Yeah.
like there's a script to this, or like you know where you're going with it,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But it's just literally like when I came in this morning, I have a few different things on my mind.
Mhm.
Let's flesh those out,
Yeah.
and then you want to talk about what you're going to be doing today, or what you've been doing this week, like the ditch tattoo or whatever, right? And how
Mhm.
that healed. But sometimes you don't even get in the directions you want to go.
No.
like,
That's
like
the other thing. Like, and that doesn't scare either of us.
No.
That's the funny thing is
No.
it's like, oh, okay, cool. We'll just keep talking because that's what we're gonna do anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's gonna feel more natural, and we're gonna be able to do it more. Because I always think like the people that would want to script things, that sounds exhausting. A.
Yeah.
And anything that sounds exhausting like that, I can't imagine keeping it up.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I mean?
I can imagine hard pivots in conversations where
Yeah.
it's like, okay, and now we're going to talk about this thing,
Yeah.
and then it appears on some screen, and you're like,
Yeah.
now, Kevin, here's your line, you
Yeah.
know, and there's almost like you're reading off a teleprompter.
Yeah.
But the point of the atrophy that I was talking about that I see in people when they're in their 30s is like, I remember my mom had a friend that was like, she always thought was incredibly intelligent and like the kind of the smartest person ever. And I ended up talking to this person, and they had, when I was a kid, they were one way, and when I was an adult, it seemed they were another way. And I
Yeah.
don't know if they changed or I changed or what happened, but I envisioned having a conversation with that person as an adult myself being different than it ended up being. And then there was this kind of sadness, like, oh, people aren't as intelligent or deep as I thought they were always, like, or that people's minds dull over time. Like, it was, I don't want that to happen to me.
Yeah.
Like, I want to keep myself pretty sharp. I
Yeah.
want to always be taking in new information, and even if I can't always apply it, I always want to be on the cusp of things.
Mhm.
Like I always say, I'm 20 years too late. Like if I had been born 20 years earlier, I probably would be living better today,
Mhm.
like with technology and stuff. But that doesn't mean I'm not watching it and observing it from afar and seeing what's going on out there.
Yep.
And just going, we are not equipped for where we're going. Like,
Yeah,
this is all
it's-
being built for the next generation,
Yeah.
and maybe even the generation after them.
Well, I always think with my, like seeing my grandparents and my parents, and I can see myself drifting towards that in terms of there's technological avenues that I don't find interesting,
Yeah.
and a good majority of people younger than me do.
but we start going, what's wrong with this generation,
Yeah.
right? We were becoming those people.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to.
It scares me a little bit where it's good because like I know that I have to actually push myself towards those situations because I know that I need to be able to speak that language.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I want to be like when I think about my Oma and her she has like she does all of her banking analog like with paper still,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And I'm just thinking like, oh man, like I'm thankful that I know how to do online banking because obviously the direction that it's going is going to be less and less of this paper person to person
Well, it's even
kind of interactions
during COVID. Do
Yeah.
all your banking online or at a
Yeah,
machine.
don't use cash.
Yeah.
Which is like, I have a number of reasons as to why I don't like that.
Wow, obviously.
Well, it just seems like like the whole reason we had cash was so that we could buy goods and services without government interaction because it's like that's your money.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving physical representation of your money and you're allowed to exchange it however you'd like. But the ability to catalog every purchase, a lot of people don't understand how strange that is in in the invention of money and capital.
Yeah.
Like we've really, and maybe it's a good thing that we're accepting it the way that it is, but in its intention, it's not. We weren't supposed to be doing that.
No,
You
we
know what I
shouldn't
mean?
be tracked like that.
Not as closely as we are, but we're tracked way more than that in every other area.
Well, I mean, there's no stopping it now.
Yeah.
Like everything we're doing,
Yeah.
We've got phones on us.
Yeah.
So,
And it's not from a lot of people will go like, well, if you got nothing, like
Yeah, you
I
got
was of
nothing to
that
hide,
mind for
yeah.
I was of that mind for a long time, because like I don't really care either in the essence of it. I have nothing to hide in that respect.
yeah.
But it seems like just weirdly voyeuristic.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like why?
Why do they need to be able to see, right?
Yeah, and I mean, well, the only reason is because if you can give your information to, they can better market to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the long
Well,
and
like-
short of it. It becomes money.
You'll be having a conversation about something it ain't, and you'll have an ad on your phone as
Yep.
soon as you open it up.
Yep.
It's like we were talking about air conditioner last night. Not even buying one. We have one in the basement. We need
Yep.
to bring it up. Open my phone and I've got an air conditioner ad because our phones don't understand nuance.
Yeah.
They're always listening, but they're kind of dense
Yeah.
too. Like they're kind of like, oh, air conditioner, got it. Here it is.
Yeah.
Like it's not. It's like, okay, guys, points for effort.
And one of the things I noticed was I purchased something that was getting advertised to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that when I purchased that thing, the advertisings would stop.
They probably just start sending you more.
Way more.
Yeah,
Like it's every ad that pops up on YouTube,
because they know
It's-
they got you.
but like I've already bought the thing.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you feel as
You've
though you
already
need to
got
market to
me.
me again. Yeah.
Let me go.
Like put your resource to someone else because like I've already made that purchase. It's crazy to me that once you engage with that, you're gonna get more
There's
of it.
probably some tightening algorithm that understands that you were suggestible once.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
So you'll be suggestible again.
But
And
it's not even a thing that you can get. Oh, another one.
Boy,
It's
yeah.
just an individual item.
Well, like what I've found is that I've been really resistant to advertising because I'm kind of hard to lock down. Like
Yeah.
I'm very scattered. My interests are not exactly what people would expect.
Mhm.
Like I have a really wide variance.
Mhm.
So, but it's slowly but surely tightening in on my interests over time.
It's narrowing.
It's getting me.
It's getting in on you.
Like you can dodge it for so long, but our phones are they're gonna get you eventually.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
We're not that hard to read.
Right. Even if you're purposely trying to be evasive,
Yeah.
it will get you eventually.
Yeah.
That's what these things do. They're AI learning, right?
Yeah.
Like as I learn to dodge it, it better learns to counter my dodge. It's like when was it the first time a computer beat a human in chess? Quite a while ago
Yeah.
now, right? So we're
Not
not
done.
that bright. Like we're
Yeah.
we're getting beaten chess every day now.
Well, and that's like chess is one of those things that there's a finite number of moves
Yeah.
and finite number of situations, which like we don't do well with situationally. We like the creativity is the ability to see outside the box. It's the thing that hasn't been explored.
Yeah.
Whereas when it's chess and you have a finite set of moves and like that's possible, a computer's going to beat you every time.
Yeah.
Whereas like, someone who invented chess, that's a little different. You know?
Right.
Your computer's not going to invent chess.
No,
And that's where I think we get to.
the computers aren't going to invent anything creative. I think
Yet.
computers could. Yeah, well, I don't know when. I don't know when you can program creativity. That seems to be a huge, huge argument right now. And
I think creativity usually comes from stimulus. So it'd be whether or not because we have reason to do the things that we do, or at least we have perceived reason.
Well,
so if you're an AI computer sitting there idle and it's not going to affect your existence to do or to not do, that's kind of the real question mark: is will they do anything?
The AI doesn't need to be entertained, which is why a lot of society 50 to 100 years from now, when we can conceivably imagine that computers will take care of our basic needs, algorithms will dictate most of what we need, necessities. The people who will still be working are the ones that are going to be creating passionately, like in an entertainment project, music, art, different things. Because though computers can be really good at math and figuring out the answer to problems, they don't know how to make us laugh. And I don't know how you program that yet.
I don't know if it'll ever be truly possible in terms of the individual nature of humans and how to funnel all those things.
Yeah.
Because it takes so many different steps in the chain in order to make someone laugh.
Well, and that being because with a computer it would go, I made Kevin laugh yesterday, so I can make Bob laugh. And it's like, no, Bob has a different sense of humor. That's why Bob listens to this comedian and Kevin listens to this comedian. At
the same time, it's kind of like that war game scenario that that Scorpion company has, or whatever that they develop for. It's a computer system that does possibilities, right? Like that's the whole idea. Is you give it as many inputs as you can, and it sorts them out into possible situations. So you could take that approach and say okay, well, situationally we give it this amount of input, and then it can measure the result of how that input is given, and then become the funniest thing ever because it's able to take all of the inputs you've given.
I have come up with the funniest joke.
Literally, because I've measured how it's going to react with each person, and I've whittled away all the fat, and I've made it so it's the perfectest, the most perfect joke.
No fat on the hog, just a
really,
lean,
this is
mean killing joke.
This is the best one-liner you'll ever hear.
This is the one. We're gonna pack the stadium, and everyone's gonna be in tears.
But without that input information, I don't know if that would ever happen naturally. But I think you could give it technically,
How do you program delivery? You know what
timing.
I mean?
But it would be again the same thing where it's okay, I deliver this joke with a 1.38 second pause, and it has the most effect.
It's just
like that kind of thing, because that stuff is measurable to a point.
It's I wonder if we're going to be there. It seems like we're far away, but then again, we don't know all of what they're doing.
No.
We won't know how. Because I've heard there's a lot of talk about integrating robot AI into society, but a lot of the reason that it's not happening yet is just because people will find it weird.
Well, I mean, we used AI.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah.
But we used it in a fashion that is simple.
If you had a programmed robot to bring your food to your table and go back to the kitchen and get the next plate, and because we have that technology already, it can be done. If we wanted to, we could roll this out tomorrow. But we're not, and I don't think it's just because it's expensive. I also think it's because human beings aren't probably ready to see that yet. It might.
Man, I don't know. Self-checkout's very popular.
It is.
And there is something to the experiential nature of things, but the COVID thing has changed that a little bit. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that will just get food rather than go out.
Well, or even if you'll get skipped the dish, you can program it so you don't even have to interact with anyone. Yeah. They just leave the food on the doorstep.
Yeah, the payment's already happened. Everything's out of your hands. It just arrives. Hopefully it's warm. It's
going to be a weird world when we don't even need that driver anymore because we've got a self-driving car.
Well, they've got those.
Right, and then you have an automated system that just programmed robot to bring the meal to your door and walk away. You could replace so many people with AI right there. What do you do with these people you're replacing?
The, that's the big question, man. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, it frees up more people to do other things,
Hmm.
but you'd have to be basically creating new industry. Because, like, I mean, if you have automated Uber, immediately right there, if Uber all of a sudden becomes self-driving cars,
Yeah.
maybe not even in a lot of places, but put that self-driving car Uber in New York City, and all of a sudden you don't have any Uber drivers.
Right.
You don't have any cab drivers. You don't have any delivery drivers. And that's just in the, like, not even the truck driver element.
Right.
Like, if you had a truck that is just automated that has the ability to drop off boxes, like, that's a huge
Well,
gamut
what
of the
happens when
workforce.
you do that too is not just unemployed truckers, you demonstrate technology,
Hmm.
right? So there's no way that other companies aren't eyeing that. Like
Yeah.
they replace their drivers and look at the money they're saving. They
Yeah.
just make a small purchase on a robotic whatever,
Hmm.
and then after that you don't pay anything, right?
Yep.
You never pay that wage again, and
Yep.
long term you're making nothing but profit. So and then eventually that just keeps cycling, like more and more people adopt that, right? And
Yep.
just more and more people are unemployed, and
Yeah.
then you get into what's next for these people.
That's one of the reasons that, like, I mean, getting into things that are creative, I think, is important.
Yeah.
And not necessarily like just you have to be in a creative industry. I think as a person, you need to
Yeah.
develop your creativity.
That's what I always say too. Like everybody should be entertaining some idea of what they're going to do in a online space, or
Yeah.
like I was saying about my coworker with the audiobook thing, like reading audiobooks on YouTube,
Yeah.
doing streams and stuff like that. Like just because one day us going to work 8 hours a day, 9 to 5 or whatever, might not be viable anymore.
Yeah.
And if you've already got something in motion, it's likely that you'll be a foot ahead of the
Hmm.
guy who doesn't. Um, there is something I learned of about 10 years ago. There was a gum product with stem cells infused into it that was supposed to fix your teeth
Crazy.
just by chewing it.
Yeah.
And then I just never heard anything about it again. I don't know what happened to it, but all I could think was, there goes all those dentists, right? Like, why would you need that if you've got
mean-
gum that can fix your teeth now?
I mean, that's a good argument for why stem cell research has been kind of shut down.
Well, yeah, it would replace so much of what we're doing.
Or even in terms of like one of the things that's exciting to me is this like MDMA therapy thing that's going on with the MAPS MAPS program, and like when that comes out, I just kind of think like if you can get into a place where you're fixing, like actually fixing PTSD and all these traumas
How
and
many
anxiety disorders and things like
medications
that,
are going to be
how many pharmaceutical
Yeah.
companies does that put under?
big pharma, man? They're never.
I mean,
gonna
they
let
could
it-
just get into making MDMA, obviously, but that's not something that you need to do every day.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That's not profitable. That's something you do 3 times and then you're supposedly cured.
This is the whole conspiracy of why we haven't cured cancer, right? Like, there's too much money in cancer.
Well, I think there is, and I think like the real question is like if we've already done it or if we're still figuring it out.
Mhm.
Because what it seems like to me is it seems like that cancer is such a broad thing that it makes it hard to narrow down on a cure because there's like 30, like there's so many different types of
Right.
cancers and they're not universally all the same, right?
This is what, like, I'm not sure that we've cured cancer. That's
Yeah.
not what I mean.
I
to
know,
say.
yeah,
It's just me.
yeah.
I don't think it's something we're truly all that interested in doing.
Yeah.
Even though on a human level people are.
Yeah, of course.
Big business
On
probably
an industrial
doesn't
level, yeah. I
want
mean,
it.
that's like I don't want to be the anti-smoker guy, but like if we looked at if tobacco companies weren't as big as they are
Yeah.
and they didn't have as much influence and power and money and all that stuff, do you think tobacco would be around? Do you think you'd have cigarettes in stores?
I think they would have been around up until about 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, then we would have been, okay, this is enough of this.
Because it's one of those like you're guaranteed a result,
Yeah.
and that result is horrendous.
Yeah.
But they've managed to stake it out and just keep going, and they just put different things on packages, and that's somehow helpful. And
Yeah.
I
the-
mean, but even like alcohol, like we have a huge consumption of alcohol, and alcohol is just straight up liver disease. Like
Yeah.
there's no way around it.
Yeah.
That's that. But we are
I
keeping going with it.
I always think it's like um, people are always like, "Oh, well, won't that hurt you if you do that with my tattooing, right?"
Yeah.
Like, could there be any side effects to that? You've got so much ink under your skin. Is that doing damage to your liver and stuff? Like, when was the last time you went and asked the alcoholic down the road that?
Yeah.
Like, people do what they do because they love it,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Like, if you love to drink, you're not gonna drink because it might kill you or you're not gonna not drink because it might kill you one day.
Well, if we made more decisions based on um, how it would be in the future, we'd have a lot more wise decisions. Like I'd have a much better savings account.
We would, but
You
we
know what I mean? Like
probably
I'd,
have more boring lives,
of
though,
course,
too.
of
Right?
course, and that's the nature of like what we were talking about with the, pushing boundaries and moving forward. Like,
Yeah,
you know, dealing with things that are further down the line like that and making responsible decisions will lead you to almost never pushing a boundary.
it's true.
Because if you look at pushing that boundary could be the last boundary you push.
Yeah, and my last boundary to push might not be anything close to what the next generation's
Yeah,
boundary to push is.
of course.
So it's important that I take it as far as I can, so that maybe my son can take it even farther than me one day.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Yep. Well, we're all just, living our existence. That's the only
Yep.
ride we get,
Yeah. Who knows what tomorrow will bring?
Yeah.